Okay, welcome to the podcast, both of you. Really great to talking to you today. I'm super excited to talk about this topic in particular. MJ and Kirsty, maybe we just have like a 1-minute overview of who you are and what you do first of all.
Sure. I hate intros. Let's do it. Thanks. I'm Kirsty. I'm here today because I'm a project owner at SentiSum. Look after customer success stuff as well. Excited to talk about product and support, how they tie together.
Cool. MJ?
Yes. So I'm MJ. I'm here because I'm a product manager at TimeShift, and because I worked in support for 10 years before I became a product manager.
Yeah, perfect. It's great. We have two product people, but also both our companies work in this space, and you've worked in customer support. So actually Okay, I think first place to start is like that kind of, why are we actually talking about that link between product and support? Why is there even a connection? I don't think necessarily before I got into this industry I would have put a connection between those two. I wouldn't have known really anything about it. Now it's blatantly obvious to me. What would you both say, or one of you, whoever wants to pick it up, but the connection, why does this exist? Why are we even talking about something between product and support?
Well, I can tell you that I've worked in several different places in support. I've worked for more corporate places and more startup-y places, right? And when I started in like the corporate world, big telco companies working in support, I can tell you that there was no connection. So I only learned about this connection when I went into startup environments, and I noticed that people actually listen to what support has to say. So they would come to me for advice and what are customers thinking or feeling, or what do they want, what do they need. So I think it's changing. Like we see more and more corporate companies like doing that as well. But there's just such great feedback from support because you handle cases every day, you handle questions every day. You solve problems, you know what customers want, you know what they need because they tell you. And in product, you also are supposed to do that, right? You're also supposed to connect with customers, but it's not as, as persistent or as recurring as if you're in support, right?
Yeah.
So
you're as a product person, you're always hungry for like that customer insight, like really understanding them. But in support, you just get that day to day, like you just absorb it anyway, because you just get barrages of it like thrown at you.
I think there's growing awareness around the fact that I guess the customer is like the most important thing, or like the voice of the customer is important, and that's why they're looking for new sources of data. Or is it the growing awareness around the fact that customer support is actually really owning that channel?
Maybe a little bit of both, actually, because I feel like there's always this thing that you hear, which is the customer is always right? You always hear that, but in reality, what we've always seen is that that's not the case. Or at least, again, in my experience inside the corporate world, that was not the case at all. There was just no listening in, or at least from what I could see. But I think we realized from time to time, and with startups and with people coming up with new ways of doing their work and experimenting and all of that, they realize that customers actually that use the product have important things to say. So and I think it's a mix of those things. It's a mix of that support talks to these customers every day, and finally you're listening to your customer. But I think it's a very recent thing, and just for some companies, maybe Portugal was a little outdated in some of the things that we were doing like maybe 10 years ago or 12 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, there are still like the bigger the companies that I talk to, the less they are like adapted to listening for the voice of the customer. Like, like some even haven't got like MPS set up yet. And like small things like that is like actually quite a massive thing for them to implement and to like actually roll out. So it's very difficult. But I think, is this where a difference in product and support is? Support teams like always want what's best for the customer, and product have to also want what's best for the customer, but you have to also make decisions that are also like a trade-off between what the customer wants and what is best for the business as well. That's what I'm like struggling with right now. Trying to do both. I want to make everyone happy, but a product person can't do that.
I think in a way, again, the customer is always right. very outdated concept, because yes, you have to listen to the customer, but sometimes you also have to, like, give it your own spin to fit the business needs and your strategy or your vision in the long run that you have. So it's kind of a balance between that. And sometimes you even have things that do the thing that the customer wants to, they just don't know about it. So because it's another way, right? Yeah. So you kind of need to investigate that, and you need to do that as product and as support, because there's always a workaround that support finds that works for the customer, right? So yeah.
Is there any tension that arises from that, do you find, like with separate teams, like when, for example, you're not able to sort of prioritize a fix? How do you handle that with support?
Yeah, I mean, it does sometimes. Yes, there is some tension. Not a lot. I mean, if you work with good people and smart people that really know the product and what you're doing and that trust the work that you're doing, tensions do not arise. But sometimes, of course, the way to deal with it is, honestly, for me, what worked is gather data, is say, yes, I know this is a problem, but maybe it's not as big as a problem as you think it is, because look at this. This tells me that it's a small problem compared to this other thing that we need to fix. Yeah. So I think doing a comparison and relying on the data that you can have, I think that helps a lot. I don't know if you've went through the same thing, probably, but yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think, I guess it's like, for me, having that conversation with customers as well and figuring out how to like frame it with them, because I guess my role is a bit more customer success rather than like strict customer support of like solving problems and stuff. So yeah, it's more like building that relationship of like, yes, this is a problem. We know it's a problem. It will still be a problem next week. And like we just need to like, we're also working on these things that are really exciting. And yeah.
Just to go into something that you were talking about before, about how it's often corporates who are not really aware of this relationship between product and support. But as soon as you move into a startup, you realize like I think everyone maybe is more in touch with, if we don't listen to our customer, the business might fail. It's a little bit of a one-to-one relationships. We need to find ways to do that. But another thing, I guess that there's an issue with corporates that the support team is probably quite far away from the product team. And as a company scales, it just becomes difficult to actually keep that connection close. Is that something you saw? Like, I mean, what about the relationship between the two? Was it actually difficult to have communication channels between the two and the accessibility of support data?
Yeah, like in the corporate companies that I worked for, like, again, big telco Portuguese companies and finance institutions and everything, there's just I've never met a product person. I didn't even know what a product manager was or what they did, or a gestor de produto, because that's the Portuguese way of saying it. I didn't even know who that person was or what they did, nothing at all. And it was only when I was at the time at TalkDesk that I realized that there is a connection here, because there used to be like these regular meetings. They still happen today, I know, because my brother still works there and he works in support, so he still has those meetings. But there are recurring meetings where support actually goes through some problems that might be happening, so like bugs or anything of the sort. Or any escalations that the customer has, and they go through it with product and QA. Of course, this is not all of the product organization. At first it was, because we were small. There was like 1-2 product managers, so it was easy. As it scaled, it became a little harder, but the solution they found was just to have people dedicated to certain areas. So the product scaled. It's not that TalkDesk is this huge thing, every area of a call center basically cover. That's their goal, right? To become an integrated end-to-end solution for everyone. So there's a lot there. And they found that if they have kind of like product experts in each area, it helps. So support members are product experts in each of the areas, and they communicate with their product managers, and they have this close relationship with them. Also, the meetings still occur. The bugs, it's the bug triage. That's what they call them. And usually, now it's before it was me. Then I moved to product. It was someone else. Now it's my brother who actually does them, and he does that so he goes through the bugs, and there's like I don't know, but it's probably like 4 or 5 associate product managers there that work in different areas. And if they don't know something, they just like make a comment in Jira, ask, you know, like, so there's a very close relationship without a doubt. Like, and that was the way that so basically what we did was we added people to the meeting, and eventually we came up with the concept of like product experts to, you know, build that relationship with the individual areas or departments that the company has. And that, I think that really helped them for sure.
What was the aim of that meeting? Was it to tackle those bugs because of reducing support tickets, or was it about customer problems?
It was about assigning the bug to the correct team, basically, and to go through it and to see if it made sense. Because sometimes, oh, it's not a, you know, it's not a bug, it's a feature. Those happen a lot. Or, oh no, it just works that way, leave it alone, it's fine, right? So I think the meetings were more to kind of have an understanding of what the problem is, and then if needed, assign the bug to the correct team to be worked on, give it the right priority, give it the right, you know, like just a conversation around it. So the problem is fixed, or the problem is not fixed, but the product team tells the support team why it won't be fixed. So then you can go back to your customer and actually have a reason, or a valid reason, or what we think might be a valid reason for it to not be fixed.
So as a company scales, having those meetings and having dedicated support people is one answer to keeping that going. And
Yeah.
Again, if you're already a corporate and you're not in that situation, working backwards into that is probably a good idea.
Yeah, for sure. How do you guys deal with it at your company? Like how do you maintain the relationship?
So like, yeah, it's basically me. Like we'll gather like any issues and feature requests that customers have, and then just sort of battle it out a bit more informally about what's the best direction to go in. Because we're just at quite a different stage at the moment, where we're just trying to like make customers as happy as possible, and like once we like scale, then I'm sure we'll get a lot more issues.
There is something though that I'll tell you guys that I haven't found the correct solution for it yet, which is, because I was talking about bugs and problems, right? But what about feature requests? Where do you store that? Like, where do you keep that, so that the product manager or the director of product or whoever actually knows where to go and find it, and remembers to go there and find it? That has always been an issue.
How do you? So this is like something it's not my job to do user research, but in the last month we did some of it, and I mean, one of the things that was like made quite clear to me was that just because someone asks for a feature doesn't mean that it's a good idea to make that feature. Or
Yes.
Doesn't mean, even if you like launch this feature, like 100 people ask for it, doesn't mean that actually is solving the problem. It's like you need to take a step back, think about why they're asking for that feature, because they're not the innovators as much as they would wish they could. They're not the ones building products.
It's a tough one to manage, I think, with customers. And I think as a product person as well, you do have to like stop yourself from assuming that the feature is like valid as well, and like you have to keep asking like why. But it's definitely difficult. MJ, how do you prioritize feature requests and get them in the right place then? Have you figured that out yet, or like no?
It's still a big conundrum. Well, I've seen it happen in different ways. Like I think at TalkDesk first, they were putting everything in Jira, and what we found was that it just stayed there, and so it was just open in the feature request, and it stays there forever, right? Not scalable, not good. Another way that they did this, which is, I don't necessarily agree or disagree, but they do it in Salesforce. So they work with Salesforce, and they do something called a gap, and they assign a bunch of information in there about the customer, like, which is really good, because then Salesforce allows you to export that data, and for a product manager, it's good, so you can kind of see similar subjects in one place. So they organize it by departments, and then they have MRR of the customer or ARR, and all of that information, like if it's a customer or prospect, like at what point is the customer with us, what's the relationship like. So they have all that information. It's really good as a product manager to get that, because you can then actually prioritize better according to not only the feature, right, but all of these other things that we have taken into consideration, unfortunately, which is ARR, where we are with the customer, what's our relationship like, are they churning or not, do we want to keep them? So there can be a conversation around it, right? And that is a good way to do it. But again, it's still you have a lot of information in there. There's a lot of information. So it's hard to kind of, streamline it and
like prioritize in what way as well. But
and at TimeShift we're doing something similar as well. So not in Salesforce because we don't work with Salesforce, but we're going to start doing something similar as well. So yeah, but again, I don't know the magic formula. For me, it was still weird to go into Salesforce and let's go through all of these thousands of feedback and comment and let's like work through it. So but yeah, it happens.
Most of our customers are on the B2C side, so that's not just thousands, it's like 50,000 a month,
Yeah.
Yeah, I've only worked in B2B, so at least I have yet to enter the B2C space.
That's what I like about B2C is you have a lot of data, and then you also have a lot of data. It's like
I think
it's good and bad.
Yeah.
That's when like the support data becomes, I don't know, maybe Kirsty, if you agree with this, but it's about like the friction, like the data is about customers every time they have an issue. Coming in and just complaining and need this fixed. And they don't request much in particular, but you can see the problems very clearly, especially over like 50,000 tickets, like 10,000 are about this.
This one thing that you really should fix. I think there's a lot of important information in sport that kind of gets like glossed over. You obviously get the very much like, I want this feature, you should do this, but then like you get the more subtle things of like, oh, I'm trying to do this, can you help me? Like things that could signal some kind of friction in the product journey, like so it's blocking people from like their product goal, and it's identifying like those bits of friction as well. That's like really important, and like anything that I guess could be automated. A lot of the times agents get asked to do tasks that should really just be inbuilt in the product. But like have not been built yet. So tens of agents will be doing that thing, making some account change, and like it just should be in the product, but it's not. And then obviously you just get the complaining about bugs or broken things, and
that's the thing, because you have those workarounds, right? Then you don't feel compelled or the strong need to actually put that in the product because you have that workaround. Of the agents like doing the work.
And it's like not super visible. An agent will just do it and then move on to the next ticket. And
that's
like,
true.
Unless they want to super moan about it at some point.
Unless you're very vocal, right, about it. Like that's true.
Especially for the companies that I say like in the e-commerce and that kind of thing, where there's those friction points mean directly people checking out of the basket and directly impacting sales. That's when like all those details every month is important. And especially as well if you're trying to run like a really lean customer support team and you have 10 people dealing with a bug that, like you said, like a small account change that could just be done in the product.
I think it's just all those things that are sort of forgotten about. But then like I always think then from a product perspective, it's difficult to prioritize those things as well, because you have to work on new things and push new business and stuff. So the case for automating something is a difficult one to make, and you've got to have a lot of data to say this is how much it's costing us, this is how much agents are spending on it, and actually make a solid case. Otherwise it will just get deprioritized with everything else.
I interviewed someone on like one of the early episodes of this podcast who was a support manager at Revolut, like the bank. I thought it was interesting because their product, every product owner or every feature owner, that was one of their performance targets was number of tickets relating to your product. So they really were cared about when we release a new feature. Tell me how many tickets do we have about that? How much is it reducing over time?
Yeah,
I think that's really good.
It was the same. It was the same at Success, if I can remember right. Like when there was a huge launch of one of the products, and they did the exact same thing. So they tracked the product manager was really close with the support person that was helping them. And I think they even had like a board where they put feature requests and stuff like that. So that because it was so specific just for that they really kept track of it. And it was really good. It made a world of difference into the product, basically.
I can imagine like just having that awareness of the end user when you release a product and keeping on top of it.
Yeah.
Just to go, like, before we go into the career stuff, what other kind of data exists in support, do you think, that can be useful for the rest of the business, and especially product people?
I want to see what MJ says.
Great. Put the pressure on. Sometimes even direction when it comes to new business, or where you want to go as a company. Like, for example, like at TimeShift, we're in the workforce management space, right? So, but we do only workforce management. We don't do QA or any of the workforce optimization tools, right? What if we start getting a lot of feedback from customers, right, that want a QA tool, something like that, right? So they want, instead of using X tool and X tool, I just want to use TimeShift for that. So that might be, if we hear that enough, right? Maybe we branch out and maybe we create a new product based on that, and we branch out into the WFO space instead of just being in WFM specifically, right? And I think that happened a lot at TalkDesk. Like, they started to listen to all of these feedback from customers and realizing that why are they using something else when they could just be using this for everything? So that allowed them to expand. It was all of hearing of that feedback constantly that helped them expand their business. So, and that, I think that's a great, like a great way to, you know, like you just listen to what the customer has to say, basically, because that's what it is. And you think maybe it makes sense, and you start thinking about it. Maybe it makes sense if we do this. And if it does not, if it's in the same industry and everything, like, then why not? Let's do it. Let's build something. So I think that's a great part to it.
That's a great one. So it's like a kind of about building evidence and having confidence in what your customers want and where you're going to. Do you, out of interest, do you think it's enough to have support tickets, or would you as a product person then go away and do like a different type of research, like user research? Would that be fill you with enough confidence, I guess, to start building features?
No, not just support tickets. So something other than support tickets, probably. Yeah, for sure.
Support tickets, I feel like they surface the insights and like make you aware, like suggestions. It can be difficult to like get a lot of data from support tickets on specific customer suggestions.
True.
Like if you can like highlight a couple of interesting ones each week, get people thinking, start a conversation, and then go into like, you know, deeper like user research, conducting some interviews, you know, and then you can, you know, then really dig into the issue and understand it more. That's like then like we were saying before, like asking why, and like going beyond the face value that's on a support ticket, and then like taking it sort of further.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, it's not the like be all and end all of products. I would love to know now, like the career stuff. When was it at TalkDesk that you moved into product, or where was it where you moved into product?
It was an internal move. I was 5 years at TalkDesk. It was literally 5 years, because I started on the 21st of October 2015, and I started at TimeShift on the 21st of October 2020. So I don't know how I did that. I don't know. But yeah, it was at TalkDesk. So I was with them, and I was in support with them for 3 years. So I was an agent, and then I was a team lead / manager for the support team. And again, I thought that was it for me, right? Oh, great. I have all of these growing, opportunities. And professional growth is going to be great. I'm going to be director of support. It's going to be amazing. And then I started seeing like some friends of mine move into product, and I was like, what's up with that? Like, what? So some of the support members, my best friend, he was the first one to go to product, because I think right now they have moved 5 people to product from support. So, and that's a lot. So David was the first, and we had, again, because we had those meetings, those bug meetings, right? It really helped us connect with the product team, right? So I think he started asking like, what do you guys do, or what's up? And then, then he moved, and I'm like, oh, so this is a possibility. But at the time I was still very interested in like, okay, no, I want to be a director of support. Like, I'm going to like revolutionize the support team at Talkless. It's going to be great. But then again, like 2 more friends of mine went into product, and I'm like, is this interesting? Maybe this is an interesting career move. So I started like talking and asking around, and and then I just went to the VP of product, CK. She's now a chief product officer at Talkdesk, and I went to her one day. She was in Portugal, and she was in Lisbon, and I went to her and I asked like if I could move to her team, and she said yes. I'm like, okay, cool.
Just like that.
But it's so easy.
It's not that easy. I have a lot of I had been there for quite some time, and because I knew a lot of people that went into the product team, sometimes they would go out to these dinners, right, as a product team, and then I would show up like, hello, I'm friends with all of these people. So I had a good relationship with CK, still do, and it was great. She said yes, because she already had the experience, right? She already knew that people from support make great product managers. At least in that context, they did, because they know the product better than anyone. So yeah, of course, I went through the whole thing. I went through the whole process, like interviews, a challenge, everything. But yeah, it was it was easy in the sense that I just asked her. But yeah.
The relationships are always important, I guess. Like if they didn't like you or they didn't know you, then maybe it'd be a harder sell. But
yeah, for sure. And I have the example like of so after I left Talkdesk, they were looking, of course, for another PM, and I recommended a person from support. I said, look, this person is going, I think she wants it, so let's try and bring her to product. And they did. She's now in product. She's an associate product manager. So she went through the process. She talked to HR. I think the process basically to start it up. And if you really want to move to another career, if you think that, first of all, the number 1 recommendation is talk to people, right? And then it's just, ask HR, ask your manager. That's how the process gets kickstarted, basically. That's how you kickstart it.
Why do you think support people, at least in that context, did make good product people as well?
I think what I've come to realize is that there are just like a lot of similarities to it, because you need to know a lot about the product. So does a product manager. Same thing. You need to know it inside out. You need to constantly be in tune to what's going on around you. So not only your product, but also like the other parts, not only just what you work on, but also the other parts. So you know how the thing you work on fits, right? Mm-hmm. And you just ask questions constantly. I mean, I'm not going to say if you're a good product manager, but if you're it helps that you're a curious person, and to constantly ask questions about what's going on. And not only questions to customers, but questions to, your support team, your customer success team, your QA team, your engineers, your designers. Like, ask questions, like see what's happening, gather that data for you, and then you can make actually informed decisions. I think it's the same with support. You ask questions to kind of like find out what's going on, and then finally you come up with a solution. And that's what, as product managers, we do as well. We come up with solutions for things. So
yeah, that's so true, actually. I never thought of it like that, but like, that just reminds me, like last week I was going through support tickets, and I was like, what makes a bad support ticket? How do you like deal with it in a bad way? And it's like, not asking enough questions is definitely something that flagged up for me. It was like, yeah, you need to, as a support person, keep asking those questions. So that makes you a good support person, and that's also what makes a good product person.
Mm-hmm. There was a rule at TalkDesk support back when I started, which was assumption is the mother of all fuck ups. So again, it was like, ask questions, don't assume just because you've seen this before doesn't mean it's exactly the same thing, might be something different. Ask questions, ask questions, ask questions. But I will tell you a secret here, guys. That's I worked as an agent for 10 years, right? So it was a long time, and I believe I created some sort of barrier between the customer and myself.
Yeah.
Because of all the things that sometimes you as a support agent have to deal with. And when I say all the things, all the problems, all the negativity, that happens a lot in support, right? You get a lot of negative feedback from customers sometimes, right? If your company is not doing a good job, or even if it is, like, you just get negative feedback sometimes. And now I'm having like an interesting switch, and I've yet to, I think I communicate pretty well with people in general, but I've yet to feel super comfortable when communicating with the customer, even as a product manager. It's like I still have that barrier sometimes.
The barrier there because of previous kind of traumatic experiences with customers.
Yes. It's kind of like, oh, it's so traumatized that now I can't.
Can I trust you still?
Exactly. Yeah. It's coming down slowly. And I communicate a lot with customers now in different ways. So definitely, but it was, I remember talking first with customers as a product manager. It was so weird. I still had all of that, respect, or I don't know, maybe I think the corporate world messed me up.
Yeah.
I can imagine though. I mean, I've heard it from every support person I've ever talked to about just like the abuse basically from angry customers.
And support people are the ones who want to help out and like actually like solve stuff, so they care. And so you can see how you would like build up that barrier to try and build some space between you and the customer.
I think it was about not bringing it home, like,
Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine. If you are like what stereotypically support people are, like empathetic towards people, that's that like sensitivity level, which if then people are really angry at you, that's going to be quite tough. What's the more like practical side of the things that you did, I guess, to jump? I think you mentioned like some good ones about relationship building and that kind of thing.
Yeah, just for me, it was building the relationships, really, like talk to people from other departments. I think especially if you're in the bigger company, right, you tend to be very much within your circle, meaning within your team or within what you're doing, right? And I think if you branch out a little bit, well, now it's a little harder because everyone's at home, but once we're in a setting of an office again, it's easier. Like I made all of these relationships by, grabbing a cigarette with one of them, grabbing a coffee, having breakfast, like lunch, grabbing a beer after work, created all of these relationships. And that helped because I just started asking questions about what product did, what were their responsibilities, and I started to realize that maybe I could do that. And maybe I could be good at it because I had all of this feedback from support, all of this knowledge that I couldn't really do anything about, well, except helping customers, of course, but that I couldn't I couldn't use it directly to help the product, right? So yeah, just ask questions again and get to know people, get to know what they do, and then just be very open and honest about what you want, really. Like, be very open to your manager. Hopefully you have a good manager that will understand. Like, I had a great one. The poor guy, he had been there for like 3 months. We had a great working relationship because he was new. I knew stuff. So we just like get along very well. He was like, oh, going to be my manager. It's going to be great. So he was the director at the time. And I'm like, yeah, it's going to be great. I remember him asking me like on the performance evaluation, one of the rounds, he asked me, okay, so what do you want to do in the next 6 months? I want to go to product. Guy was crushed. To this day, till the day I left, he was still asking me, so do you want to come work with me again? You want to? Yeah, he's such a great guy. But yeah, just talk to your manager, talk to HR. If you think that your manager is not taking the step, for example, go directly to HR and talk to them. They're there to help you. And if they know that there's an opening, go to the careers webpage of your company, check it out. If there's an opening you think you'd be good at it, go for it. Talk to your manager and HR.
Yeah, I think like there's always like a lot of conversations and like podcasts around like how do you become a product manager? Like it's this big thing. And like I guess the way that we both did it was just like internally, like just internal progression. Like don't worry about, I would say, I don't know whether this is good advice, but I would say like don't worry about all the things you like should know. Obviously have an awareness, but I think having a deep understanding of the product in your company, having a good deep understanding of the customer in your company, having that context is the most important thing. Just being informed, I think, is the most important thing about product. It's very clear when people are not informed and they're trying to make product decisions. And so yeah, I think so to say to anyone, don't stress out about like 100 interviews for product management at like different companies. I think sometimes your time is better spent going in a level lower, building the relationships or in a different department, and then building your way up there.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's way harder if you apply to a different company to start, right? Yeah. Because everyone looks for some sort. It's like that thing, right? When you get out of college, you want a job, but you don't have experience, but then you need experience.
There's all the like bullshit requirements as well. Someone starts like advertising for a product management job, you've suddenly got to have all these skills that like just I don't have them. But like, yeah, as you said, relationships are the most important thing to help you get there.
For sure. And that's the thing, right? Like you see, sometimes people make it like product managers as such a difficult job to do, or such a, like, wow, I mean, it is difficult, right? Because you have to juggle a lot at the same time. But on the other hand, if you're a good communicator, if you're good at building relationships with people, and if you're, like a curious person, you'll do a great job, honestly. Because the rest, like the technical part of being a product manager, the agile things and the ceremonies and all of that, right? You learn. Yeah. You learn it.
I think I like the idea that, it's really hard to get a junior product manager job if you're outside the company. But if you work in support, like you have a competitive advantage, like significant one over anyone who is going for a junior position.
Yeah. I think it's a good message for like support leaders as well. When they talk about having an engaged team and getting the most out of their team, like what the team really needs are growth opportunities as well, because they may love support, but there are other things that they will want to carry on and do, and creating that culture where it is possible to have those meetings with other departments where they can contribute meaningfully, and just building those relationships with other areas of the business, I think is like all support leaders should be doing that if they're not.
Yeah, for sure. And it's not just for product, right? Like I've known people, there's a girl I used to work with in support back at TalkDesk. She went into QA, and QA like really the engineering part of QA. So she went and became a QA engineer at TalkDesk. Yeah. She really liked that part. She applied and she got it. And now I think she's moving on from TalkDesk to another place, where she's like starting basically a new career because, TalkDesk gave her that opportunity to start somewhere else. And now she has a whole new career that she probably never even thought about it. I remember when I first interviewed her, I was the one who hired her for support. And when I first interviewed her, she wanted to be in marketing. So, and now there's and now there's this whole thing, a whole new world that opened up to her. So it's like, don't keep your options open, right? Like that's the thing.
And I would hire support people as well. That customer knowledge is so important in marketing. What are their biggest problems is like my biggest problem right now. Like how do I find out the biggest problems of our customers and write stuff that entertains them or anything like that. So it's a great training ground for probably any.
That's true.
I think it's just difficult because not everyone sees it like that, right? That's the main issue, I guess.
The more people do start seeing that, I think, and the more support people will be in the rest of the business, and the more valued support will become. It's like a cycle, and then the more the data will be used, and
I guess like the concrete things that can happen is like MJ said, like having product experts within support that liaise with different teams. But then also if you think like more B2C as well, like you could have part of the support team just focused on retention, or like some of their day on retention, or some of their day on new sales, and helping people through the sort of sales process. Like Shoe, I think they have like this little video tool on their website where like they can start a video chat with a customer who needs help while they're purchasing. And like that's a great way for support to then coach them through the purchase, and like and you know then they will actually achieve a higher sort of basket value for that as well. So then you start to really see like the value of support. The startup I used to work for, Swoon, like I sat next to the support team for a bit, and I was sat next to these two people who would literally like be on the phone to customers giving them like interior design advice and like, you know, going, oh yeah, this chair would look great in your lounge. Like much better than what I'm saying right now, but like yeah, it was really sort of, yeah, it was just really, as I was saying there, like convincing of we just need to see support as like not just this one thing. It's that actually just really helpful people that are like trying to also do good for the business as well.
Cool, guys, I think we've come to the end. It's been super interesting, like really, it's been really awesome to have both of you as well and having different perspectives.
Oh, nice. Good.
Thank you both so much.
Good luck in the editing.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you guys for this. This was nice. It's a first experience. But yeah, for sure it was nice. Yeah.